What about
Hi everybody on
fervent
Facebook.
like it's flop? What?
Hey, Keith, over here. Keith, hand it to me. Gotcha. While you're up, can you check to see that I'm in frame?
Is Derek in frame? Oh god, these really do pick up everything.
Yeah, you're good.
All right.
Yeah. Over here. I'm
Yeah,
good.
you're good.
Yeah. So be careful with hitting the microphones and stuff like that. It wouldn't get super hot.
Oh, what are we brought to by today?
We are brought to you by Mary Poppins from Disney with Emily Blunt. Mary Poppins.
Mary Poppins popping it like it's hot.
Joel, remember you don't have to talk that close to the microphone anymore.
Alright.
They're super sensitive.
This is gonna be exciting.
Okay, you guys ready?
Yeah.
Hold on. Let me go ahead and get into the chat room first before we start.
You're fucking loud.
Yeah, you too. With the chat room.
Oh, on.
Yeah.
Let's share first.
Jump in and just troll us. It'd be even better because you could say something trolly and we won't notice until we read it, and you could just smile at us in room and be like, "Yeah, I said that, fool." Oh, can someone tag Melissa?
Alright, let's go, guys.
Okay,
Alright, ready?
count us.
5, 4, 3.
Cue the air horn sound. This is end user disagreements. And we are on episode 23.
MJ.
MJ.
Go.
Got it. Magic Johnson.
Sports ball.
Sports ball.
Things.
Things. And this is the video game podcast that where your argument is
Invalid.
and we are brought to you
Appreciate
here.
it, but invalid.
Appreciative but invalid. I forgot about that. So good. This is coming to you from Studio 212, part of the Soundcasting Network here in South Lake Union, Seattle.
Seattle.
Seattle! Go Hawks!
Go Hawks.
Go
Sounders.
Valve.
Yeah, we're running out of teams now.
Go Steam.
Yeah,
Go Steam! And today we are brought to you by... What are we brought to you by?
Don't hit the mics.
By our mom. Hi, Mom.
We're brought to you by mothers because,
Every single podcast has to deal with your mom.
yeah, it does have
That's
to be
it.
the mom.
Yeah.
And some more personally than the others. And
Give her a call sometime.
give her a call sometime.
Let her know you're okay. And, you know, maybe socks for Christmas isn't such a bad idea.
Doesn't sound like a bad idea at all. As usual, you got Blabbermouth over here. This is Ladder Brown. And to my left with the fancy blue cup is...
Oh, you have just the tip, as always.
And to just the tips left, we have...
You have Lord the Saverings of the Kingdom of V-Dash Gaming.
Now, if you could please change your tag to that, that'd be amazing. Lord the Saverings.
That's too much.
Is the short for Theodore?
No.
Lord Theodore
You
Saverings?
say the whole thing like a Tribe Called Quest. The Saverings.
Yeah, Tribe, got it.
Mm-hmm.
Tribe,
Yes, you know what tribe is, right?
called Quest.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, man, this has been cool. We are missing our D'Artagnan this week.
Oh, no.
He's on a plane with snakes.
Yeah. Well, where is he coming from?
He's coming from TwitchCon. We're going to hear more and more about him and all of his shenanigans and how he drank zero alcohol during this trip.
Yeah, we're going to debrief him at some point on the show.
At some point, are we going to talk to Stryker? Are we going to talk to the Marlboro Man?
Spoilers.
Are we going to talk to? Are we going to talk to Kiefer Sutherland?
Oh, he's the president now.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Dude, 24 just evolved, and he's off of Fox, so now he gets to. Who knows? He's got an ABC. He's got a Disney's. Whatever. That has not video games. We're going to talk about video games real quick.
Let's do that, please.
All right, we're going to start off with sports. EA and the Rams Stadium. Saverings. Can you hit us up and say what the hell happened with this perfect, never makes a mistake company, EA?
Details. All about the details. So you've all heard.
Deets!
You've all heard the little complaints, the little first world problems of us gamers these days. Like, every man's the same. It's got the same 3D graphics it's always had, and all they do is add the crunch mode or whatever they add. So, being as these Madden games have quote-unquote been the same game, people are have more time to look at the minutia and look at the makeup of the game. So I guess what came out this week is they got the sun's position wrong in a couple of select stadiums in Madden. Is that what's?
Yeah, the one that was notable was the LA Rams Stadium. I think they were still kind of basing it around, whenever they were in St. Louis.
Those flat earthers.
So, yeah.
Messing up where the sun is.
Yeah, I know. And this is supposed to be, a picture perfect simulation of what the game actually is, just in video game form.
Never mind the stats and the actual experience. The sun's in the wrong place.
But I thought it was just roster updates anyways. Every single year you get the same game.
Yep.
Just get a little shinier.
Says every Final Fantasy is the same, only plays Madden.
Hey, who's talking about?
That's one of those douchebag Steve pictures. It says every Final Fantasy is the same.
Oh, I'm pretty sure it's Scumbag Steve.
Yeah.
Oh, hi, Amber.
Yeah.
We got our first comment. Hi, Amber. You're watching the podcast.
Hello, Amber.
Hi, Amber. Anyway, Amber, luckily you tuned in when we were talking about sports stadiums. She watches sport.
Sports ball?
No, I don't think she watches sports ball. Amber, do you watch sports ball? Comment below. And, this is one of the many things that EA has been faltering at, and, whatever. I mean, they're great. Love EA.
But I mean, how important is it really? Do you need it to be, perfect to the actual experience itself? Are we asking for too much to make EA go ahead and fix this for us?
If you're gonna go for it's in the game, is not the sun something that should be accurately simulated to? But I get why I got pointed out on why it's a big deal, because the Madden games, they haven't really had to pick an ad too much since about 2006, really. Let's just be honest. They've just been upgrading and giving little tweaks here and there and adding new features and taking some things and adding them, taking them out. So that's why people are noticing this, because they've broken down Madden so much that's what stood out. Oh my God, the sun is I can't even with this. Take it back. So I think that's what's going on with that.
Oh, I got Tita watching. Hey, how's it, Auntie Rowena? Thanks for tuning in. She's the best. She gets to hear me talk.
All right, well, I'll take your word on this.
I don't know. That's cool that she's on there. Hi.
Hi.
Wait, Shaka's. Everybody, Shaka's. This one.
Is that what this is?
Shaka's. Everybody that's listening on the podcast, that's the pinky and thumb finger. It's like a hey, how's it going?
That's like a Hawaiian thing, huh?
It's a Hawaiian thing, brah. And so, along with
No.
EA and
No.
our master producer is telling us to get on with it.
How dare you?
We got another hot topic. Oh God, I said hot topic. We got another hot topic. We're talking about the NES Classic, and I'm gonna sling this over to just the tip.
So this past week we finally got some photos of the NES Classic and kind of have an idea of what's going to be going on with this. So it was announced earlier this year over at E3 that the NES Classic was going to be released for, what was it, $60?
And everybody lost their shit.
Yeah, because it was 30 classic games all together on one mini console. Apparently we didn't realize how many this really was. It's basically about a fourth the size of the original NES console itself, and it also uses the original controllers. They use just different connections. So the controllers that come with it, you can end up using for both the Wii and for the Wii U console itself.
Tight.
Some of the games that are included with it is Tecmo Bowl, Mega Man 2. You have Castlevania in there,
Tecmo's
Super Mario
cool.
Brothers.
Shout out to those Kia commercials with Tecmo Bowl and Bo Jackson in them.
Oh man, I was so bad at Tecmo Bowl. I also at that point didn't really understand sports at all.
I destroyed Tecmo Bowl.
What team do you use?
That game was my bitch. The Bears. Because
What color were they?
Dub Bears.
The Bears were blue and orange. Blue and gray.
Weren't a lot of the color swaps weird because of the limited colors?
Yes, the Seattle Seahawks were pink and white. Yeah.
Hey!
And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were a different shade of pink and white. Because they couldn't put orange in, apparently.
Yeah?
Yeah, something
Well,
like
then what about the fireballs in Mario? Whatever, continue.
Yeah, so that was what was going on with that. But you're talking about the NES Classic?
Yeah, so a couple of things that have come to light, which is one of the big sticklers right now, is that the cords themselves are only 3 feet long.
So they made everything mini, even the controller cord.
Even the controller cord is mini. I mean, you have the little HDMI port, and
Wait,
then you
did you
have
say
one
3 feet?
3 feet. Yes, that's a
Not
yard.
rising.
Yes, if we're going by the
Yard.
imperial standard, yes, it's a yard.
That's not a very long cord, especially if you think about the distance that most people are to their gaming televisions these days compared to the classic NES. When you got a 50-inch 1080p, a 50-inch 4K, you are not 2 feet away from your TV. You're at least 5 feet away.
At least. Well, I mean, what were the PlayStation 2 controller lengths? They were around 8 feet, I believe, like maybe 8.3, somewhere around there. And I still felt like those were too short, considering where the console is sitting. It's sitting on the entertainment center, and
Word.
you have to end up getting past the coffee table just to be able to play because you want to put your legs up.
Shout out to Microsoft and the Duke for making the super long cords, but we'll get into that.
We will get into that. Props on the NES controller. This is cool. You know, I've seen some retro controllers being thrown out, like Atari did the joystick with all the games inside the joystick, and that was just like
I have a couple.
yeah, those are neat and all, but I think NES is trying a little harder with this, and they made an actual little console with controllers. It's cool. I think people are going to dig it. I think they're going to sell a bunch. And you know what? We were going to go to another topic, but I think we're going to flip these.
Real quick, do you have a computer from like the last 8 years? Is it a shitty Dell? Is it a whatever? It's called an emulator. People.
Yeah.
You can play all the NES games.
You can play all the NES games.
Yeah,
on
but
it.
I'm just throwing it out there.
But at the same time, you're not supporting the developers that way. It's not going back to the people that originally created these games.
Where would the rights for Balloon Fight go back to? Like
Nintendo.
It's like,
Nintendo invented it.
Nintendo so struggling.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, it depends
Or
on
I'm not advocating YAR piracy, but I'm just saying this is already a thing.
But Pirate Bay, though.
This is already Pirate Bay is the feds. That's the feds.
So we had a couple topics tonight, and I'm going to propose to my homies here. I think we're going to flip these in order. Does that makes sense, right?
Yeah, whatever.
Yes.
Whatever makes you feel great.
You know, cannoli makes me feel great. Cannoli and whiskey. So we're going to go flip these. Flip that, reverse it. And we're going to go to talking about controllers. We're talking about the little guys on the NES and how they're pretty accurate and how successful they are. But we're going to talk firmly about a controller that might have been under fire over the last decade. And who wants to start this one? This is a pretty
More than that.
Okay, sorry. Since it came out,
Like 15, 16 years now.
it's a controller so notorious it's got a nickname, and we call it Duke. We call it the Duke.
Duke of Earl.
So all you gamers out there, mainly you Xbox guys, we have a controller for the original Xbox, dubbed the Duke due to its grand size. And who got the history on this? Who was talking about the Dreamcast and everything? Oh, okay.
Oh,
Just a tip. Go for it.
Yeah. So I was reading up in this a little bit earlier. Seamus Blackley, who was one of the original creators of the first Xbox that was released back in November 2001. So people that remember purchasing it, the console was huge. The controller was equally huge. Seamus Blackley was recently, approached about this over on Twitter and talking about the history of the controller itself and why it was so huge upon release. One of the things that he ended up saying is that it was embarrassingly enormous, and that the guy that they picked that was in charge of designing the controller picked a vendor that wasn't capable of making small electronics. So they ended up making all of the plastic to make around the components for the controller itself. Just so that you know, apparently all of the plastic that is used for the controller on the original Duke is equivalent to about a gallon of unleaded gas. So you're paying it's about $3 worth of plastic just to make the original Duke controller.
America, get that all. Or OPEC. All praise OPEC.
But yeah, it was really interesting. One of the things he ended up saying is that they really like the Dreamcast controller at the moment. So the Dreamcast controller was released 9/9/99, so September 9th, 1999. That was about 2 years before the release of the original Xbox, and they based it around that. I think people that got the original Xbox controller with the triggers itself and the button placements kind of figured this out. But the difference between the two is that the Duke was heavy and large for no apparent reason. The Dreamcast controller had the little VMU, which is kind of like a Tamagotchi.
That's why it was
that you
big.
put in there for
Dude,
certain
the
games.
VMU was so tight. And also...
It's America.
Okay,
console.
but aside that, we're
It's
talking about the
actually big.
VMU, and without the VMU, it wasn't that heavy.
No, it wasn't that heavy. It wasn't that big to start off with. But what Microsoft ended up doing is putting a big-ass fucking logo just in the middle of the controller to remind you, hey, you're playing Xbox.
I felt like it was made out of a racquetball. Like, it was like... there was a density to it.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, it also has... But for me, I really liked the Duke controller, especially with playing first-person shooters. It just felt right. It was balanced at the front. It was balanced in the back. And also the placement of the black and white buttons made a little bit more sense to me, even though it was a little, not off center, but it didn't give you the full, 3x3, the 2 rows of the 3
Sure.
for, fighting games and all of that. But still, it was better than the placement of the controller S, which was released for the Japanese market, where they moved the black and white buttons down below the A and B buttons. It was always really awkward, and when I was playing games like MotoGP, I would always just cramp up, and it was like one of the worst button placements for me.
I get it, and
then that controller became the default controller.
And that became the default. Yep.
And I remember the argument because I was a big PlayStation kid at the time, and my Xbox friends, aka Halo fanboys, were telling me, like, these controllers were made for an adult. PlayStation controllers are made for a child. I play an adult system. I'm like, all right, bro.
That was the argument?
Yeah, while they were drinking their, Monster energy drink.
Were their collars popped by some
No,
chance?
they
Okay.
weren't.
Okay.
They're probably wearing a Cheese Affliction shirt or something. Holler at Affliction, a proud sponsor of the End User Disagreements podcast. Not likely. And now we're talking about controllers and how the PlayStation controller is kind of pretty standard. Like, they don't make bad ones. People kind of are alright with it. Kind of not really that good for shooters. Doesn't have the trigger like the other ones does. But neither does a mouse and keyboard.
I think if we look at different
dare you.
generations, they're different. We could go ahead
How
and
dare
compare
you.
them
I went
differently.
there.
How dare you?
I went there.
How
There's no
dare you.
trigger on mouse and keyboard. That was cool.
Because you don't need it.
I know, but you have to admit, when the Xbox came out and you were like, oh,
Don't even give me
the
started.
shoot button feels like a trigger. That's actually cool. Oh, wait, they stole that from Dreamcast.
Oh,
All
but
hail
the-
Japan.
So that makes up for auto aim. But we won't go there.
No, I mean, whenever it comes down to the triggers were not only great for shooters themselves because it gives you kind of that feel,
Controllers and shooters still out of way.
but racing games
Yes.
is where they excel because you can go ahead and decide how much you're going to go ahead and
Oh,
put
yeah.
down on the throttle.
Oh yeah, and since we're talking about Xbox and controllers, the 360 controller probably is the greatest controller ever created. I think. Like
Really? Even
overall.
Whoa.
purpose
Even in
controller.
comparison to the Xbox One controller?
Yes.
All right, well, that's your
The
own
shoulder
personal
buttons,
opinion.
the
I
shoulder
can get
buttons
that.
are whack on the Xbox One controllers. Not a fan.
I don't know. For me, I'm actually really a fan of the PlayStation 4 controllers.
And
I mean, they have triggers as well at this point. You know, they're not quite the same, but some of the extra features they have, like the touchpad in the middle, when games use that, for me personally, it's a game changer. And I think that we could end up utilizing a lot more, but we're waiting for
That's
Sony
true.
to really show
That's
the
true.
proper way to
It
do
could
it,
be
other
used.
than just being a glorified pause menu.
Yes, and not to mention the big blue flashing light that you can't turn off,
I really, you can't turn it off. It's in settings.
and a share button. Yeah.
But you
The share
can
was-
dim the light.
No,
Huh?
You can dim the light.
it doesn't turn off all the way.
It doesn't
Oh,
turn
it
off all
doesn't?
the way.
Yeah, mine's dimmed. Yeah, that is kind of annoying, isn't it? I like the Dreamcast controller, man. For real.
That
Super
is-
legit.
The Dreamcast in general, especially its controller, was a very underrated system. The
One
controller
of the
was excellent.
most underrated systems ever. They were sports forward. They were online ready. They had a mini game.
Would it be
Oh my
would it be
God.
fair to say from this point moving forward, since it came out, the Dreamcast will probably stay in the top 10 of all systems?
All
ever
best
released?
systems?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I'm completely biased in that, right? Because I'm the fighting game guy.
Mhm.
And compared to Xbox and PlayStation,
Yeah.
there was no
Yeah,
comparison.
the Dreamcast.
Dreamcast got
is a
everything.
very underrated system. It's top 10 all time.
It got Power Stone. It got
It came with a modem.
modem,
It came with S Video out. It
Techromancer.
looked beautiful. All the games ran fine. And here's the other thing: when you were bringing up the original controller,
Mhm.
right before the original Xbox came out, I remember there was all those rumors flying around about how the Xbox was going to be backwards compatible with the Dreamcast, and that sold a lot of people, including me. That would have been awesome because the controllers are very similar. They both ran on Windows. People don't remember that the Dreamcast ran on Windows CE. It'd be very easy to
Yeah.
port games over. That was a missed opportunity. Not so much by Microsoft because they ended up doing all right, but by
Yeah.
Sega. Sega should have came to them and been like,
Yeah, we got you.
What can we do to
Yeah.
be in the Xbox?
What can we do to sell more copies of Seaman?
Yes. What can we do to sell more copies? Can you imagine like an Xbox version of Shenmue? Like more people would know about that game. We might have got a third one already by now. If that had
Yeah,
happened.
but and I had this conversation with Noodles, aka James Horton, back in Hawaii. I grew up with him. His MC name is Noodles, the Oriental Verbal Bento. Is that good? It's good,
Sorry,
right?
could you
That's
repeat
actually
that?
a good name.
Oriental Verbal Bento. Yeah, he's like Japanese and Chinese.
Noodles is actually somebody in Wu-Tang's nickname too.
Oh, I'm sure tons of people will run
Yeah,
Noodles. He spells it with a U, whatever. Anyway, he was talking to me about it, about the Dreamcast and its success. And
Great system.
I made the argument that it really was. And I'm looking at producer Bobby right now. The fact that Dreamcast didn't play DVDs,
That's what did it.
that's what did it in.
Yeah.
But they came out earlier. Like, that wasn't a thing yet. And it would have made it even more expensive. And then the PlayStation came out. It was like, hey, free DVD player and your system.
True story, kids. This is really going to date me, but I worked at EB before the Dreamcast came out and a little bit before the PS2 came out, and we used to pre-sell them. And we pre-sold a crap ton of Dreamcast. This is a whole other story, but I was there the day that the Dreamcast and Final Fantasy VIII came out the same day, and we were on the news, so it was crazy at my store.
Woo!
Yeah, it was bananas. That I'll think about that on my deathbed. But anyway, the whole thing with the Dreamcast, where was I going with that?
Hashtag wine.
Hashtag
Oh, yeah, let's
old
put some
age.
shots. Those are
Hashtag
glasses
middle
over
age.
there. Yeah.
Honestly, I don't remember where I was going with this.
You were talking about the Dreamcast. Sorry, I moderately interrupted because, surprise, Loudon Brown talks a lot.
Oh, no way.
Shocking!
No, that was good though. You had a good point. But anyway.
Oh, hey, we got a really quiet chat room.
But that's what killed a lot of the Dreamcast pre-sales. People were really hyped for the Dreamcast, and they're like, "Yeah, I want it," but the PlayStation 2 is right on the corner, and it's a DVD player.
But at the same
And it's a DVD player. I heard that all day, and that really did cripple the Dreamcast's initial sales. Even though it sold really well out the gate,
Yeah.
rightfully so, that still did really cripple them.
But at the same time, 2 years later, the GameCube was released. Even though it used DVDs, it used the micro versions of DVDs.
But by that time, Nintendo had a reputation of doing their own thing.
It wasn't about the
And-
micro DVDs, or the fact that it played DVDs. And we already had this conversation that Nintendo's first-party fandom will keep it floating.
Exactly, yeah.
Sega didn't really have that.
And they had already set the precedent for doing their own thing by having cartridges on the
Well,
N64 when everybody else had CDs.
We're going to have to pour one out or toast to our fallen hero of a console. This toast is to the Dreamcast.
Yes.
Dreamcast, we love you, man.
You're looking forward to Dreamcast 2. Make that happen.
Dreamcast 2.
Seriously, make that happen. Even if it's just an emulator, make it happen. Ooh, wait.
Oh, Kevin Klepper would be so
Ugh.
mad at me. I just shot
Oh,
Mezcal.
wait.
Oh, that was so good.
Oh, it's so smoky. So
It's
tasty.
so good. All right. Before we finish this subject, I want to we have to come out with third party and worst controllers. Oh my God, we're talking a while about
Yeah.
controllers, but
You
that's a
wanna-
big thing.
You want to go to these are the breaks?
No. To get the breaks after this title, we got to talk about the third parties, man.
Okay.
All right. So notoriously, you go to your homie's house. There's 4-player. And there's like 3 first-party controllers and 1 janky light up.
Whoever
like,
comes in fourth gets the janky controller.
and then you look at that, you're like, I'm not playing on this. It's made by fill in the blank. Before all of their success with Street Fighter, Mad Catz used to be the black sheep of controllers, man. No one wanted to play on that freaking Mad Catz. They were bad.
And there was another company that was notoriously horrible, and we couldn't find them. So if any of you remember, if you were alive in the 80s or 90s, and you remember like the third-party controller company that also made memory cards, yeah, let us know. I also remember Nukio.
No, it's
Oh,
Nyko.
with a Y?
Yeah.
They used to make all like the second-party PlayStation memory cards and stuff, the ones that had like 8 times the memory and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, remember them? And they had a little button on there on the actual controller. So-
Yeah, I remember that. There were so many bad third-party controllers out there that tried to go ahead and fix something that wasn't broken.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of this comes down to the fact that the third-party controllers also had to contend with first-party peripheral makers. Like, for example, the D-pad design for Nintendo consoles, they own a patent on that D-pad design, so every other player out there had to work around those
They come up with their own stuff.
Yeah, they had to come up with their own stuff. There was a reason, if we go back to the Duke controller, there's a reason why that D-pad was so messed up to begin with.
And
Do
it
you
carried
remember?
on.
No, it didn't. No, the Duke D-pad ended up changing. So the original Duke D-pad was kind of almost like like an octagon, so to speak. And
It had little rounded edges on it.
it had kind of like little bumps and ridges,
yeah.
and it felt really awkward, especially when we were playing games like Dead or Alive.
Yeah.
It was just really hard to go ahead and navigate.
Well, I only say it carried on because a lot of people, if you look at a lot of polls, if you ask the average gamer, a lot of people who are completely objective, they would say that maybe the Xbox 360 is the greatest overall controller of all time.
D-pad is terrible.
Exactly.
D-pad is terrible.
Exactly. They'll still say it's the best controller, but the D-pad on it is the worst thing of all
It's
time.
always something, man. Everybody's got something. Cheng Yu over on our chat room just punched in a little bit. He was talking a little bit about the Dreamcast's unsuccess. And he was saying that it had poor marketing.
It had very poor marketing. In
Oh,
typical Sega,
Shout out to Chang.
yes, that's a good point. In typical Sega standard operating procedure, since the Genesis, because they
Sops.
killed it. They killed it with the Genesis marketing. They absolutely destroyed it with the Genesis marketing.
I
And
know.
ever since then, they fired all those people and they just hired a bunch of monkeys to do it.
That's true. And then we're gonna fly through it. Oh man, how did I forget Pelican?
Pelican.
Pelican.
The one thing I actually liked about Pelican was their glow in the dark controllers that lit up whenever you plugged them in. You turn on the console.
Oh my
They
God.
were terrible controllers, but it's like
Oh.
at least I can find my controller in the
That's
dark.
the truth, super truth. And then
But Mom, I can find it in the dark though.
and then we have Turbo Touch and Hori that made expensive stuff. That was kind of neat. But I'm gonna end this conversation with Logitech. Can we get a?
conversation?
Wait, can I talk? Can we?
Well, being in the PC realm, I'm well aware of Logitech.
yeah, but
With
they're
the mice and the keyboards and the controllers.
exactly. But when they
and
made
speakers.
third-party controllers for the console platforms and like showed people like, oh, this is the potential,
And they're still doing it.
and they're so good. They're so good. They and then when they made a racing wheel for Gran Turismo,
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, it turns like a real steering wheel. All the other steering wheels stopped at a 90-degree turn, and the Logitech one turned 900 degrees. I'm like, what?
Come to the PC, you can have all the Logitech you want. They still pump all that stuff out, but they're just not really making it for consoles anymore.
Not yet. Well, I kind of want all the maniacs at home to punch in and talk about their favorite controllers, all their Dreamcast memories, and everything we've been
times.
talking about.
Good times. That Dreamcast launch, that was the most money I've ever seen in person in my entire life.
Holler.
So yeah, it was
I worked
crazy.
at a GameStop during an NBA Live launch. That was weird. In LA.
Wait, what year was this?
This was
'Cause I'm
2003.
trying to think the last time NBA Live was relevant.
Dude, it was insane. There was a line out the door, and every single person was like, NBA Live. And I was like, all right, here you go, here you go, here you
Rip
go.
NBA Live right now. It
NBA
is
Live,
done,
sorry.
though.
Yo, Fox Hills Mall in LA, though, what's up? Say hi to the Black Santa for me.
The Black Santa.
Hey. If anybody's just tuning in, hi, kids. Hi, Maniacs. This is End User Disagreements, the podcast where your argument is
Appreciate it.
But invalid.
super invalid.
And if you're a kid watching this, like, turn this off because we're like doing like grown-up stuff in this cup.
We're doing
That's
into the cup.
Yeah, that's what my son
If you
said.
guys could see the gesture from our master producer right now, he was making a peace sign.
It's just funny because that's what my kid says. He's 5, and like when he sees me with the drink, he's like, "Daddy, is that a grown-up drink?" And I'm like, "Yes, yes, it is, son."
Well, hot damn. I'm going to do an outro here with something I've been playing all week. Have you guys heard of a little fighting game called Guilty Gear?
What?
Guilty Gear.
Axis
should.
games.
You should.
Atlas Games, Arc Systems.
Hi. Do you want a computer from the last like 6 years? You can play Guilty Gear. Just go on Steam. It's like $5.
It's $5. So,
play any of the Guilty Gears games.
except for probably Relevant.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, like the new one.
Yeah.
Like not Blaze Blue. That's not $5 yet.
Yeah, so we're talking about super producer Daisuke Ishwatari or Ishwatari Daisuke, whatever.
Son.
Japanese producer
Son.
who does Sama, who does the voice acting for the main character, the character artwork, the lead programming, and like he's just like the guy that does everything. Like he runs the show and he fixes everything. Like he does so much for that. Like I don't know anybody else that does like all of those things. And this game is for the hardcore. This is one of the most alienating fighting games out there.
But the thing is, though, I've played that game a lot of times, and I had the one on the GameCube too, where you had to play with the little tiny little D-pad that they kind of threw in there just to humor you on the GameCube controller.
Yeah.
So I played that game with a lot of people who very rarely have ever played fighting games. Were very casual to video games. I put Guilty Gear in, and they were all like, "What the hell is this?" And they
It's
were
bonkers.
all into it, and they all wanted to play it.
Because it's interesting. It's actually interesting. I'm going to go off on a tangent here and talk about, because I play a lot of fighting games. I love Street Fighter.
Brown's going off on another tangent.
Another tangent. A tangent Brown.
I'm gonna drink my drink.
Loud and tangent. And so we got Tekken, we got Mortal Kombat, we got Street Fighter, we got all these big titles. And then Guilty Gear comes around in the early 2000s, and it's loosely based on the Marvel vs. Capcom, the Versus Capcom series, right?
Mhm.
There's air dashes, there's air combos, and the characters are very over-stylized with big moves.
There's even air recoveries when you get hit. You
Yeah,
can, like,
so the thing that they did is they took all these elements that from all these fighting games, and they took out all the things they thought they were cheap or too easy. And I feel like they just, with Guilty Gear X at least, Guilty Gear was pretty rough. It was early. Guilty Gear X came out and like, wow, this is like if Marvel fixed all of the problems, you know, like Infinite and bad tier lists and like, you know, a lot of exploits.
How dare you talk bad about Marvel?
Hey.
In the year of our Lord Feige 2016.
In the year of Luke Cage.
We all make mistakes. That's
But,
how we get better.
So this game is also not, like, aside from the gameplay, I love the gameplay, it's really, really difficult though. It is one of the most, the highest learning curve of any fighting game I've ever played. It's so hard to learn how to play. You have to research, you gotta watch footage, you gotta watch tutorials. The tutorials in-game are amazing. That being said, aside from that, the character design and story alone are leaps and bounds above so many other fighting games.
Wait, how so?
But here's the thing, though. I played like 4 or 5 Guilty Gears, and I never paid attention to the story because when you play the game, who cares about the story? Like,
No,
the game
that's
is crazy.
true. You've never and that's the thing with fighting games. Like, oh, another fighting tournament happened, and the grand prize gets to be the master and or revenge, and no one ever really made a whole lot of sense out of that. But this one has this whole like sci-fi. The year's 2175. You know, the world gave birth to like AI in the form of these. They created these machines to help called gears. It's not AI, but they're like alive. And
All
they're
I want to
so
know
strong.
is where did Venom come from?
Yeah, and Venom, and you know, like the crazy thing is some of the people you think is like, oh, that's a gear, right? They're super strong. Like, no, that's a dude that just knows how to use a pool cue real well.
If you guys don't know what we're talking about, just go on your crappy PC and just download Steam and buy Guilty Gear, whatever, for like $5 and play as Venom. He's like one of like the illest video game characters ever. Faust as well.
Yeah, Faust is sick. So
Faust,
the thing
Faust
is,
basically a dude with a paper bag over his head.
yeah,
Who like comes out of like doors out of other dimensions and cuts you up with a giant scalpel.
scalpel. So that's one of the things they're like genuinely creative with these character types, and the most thing is they're not they're not super racist about it. And I don't want to say that in a bad note, but
It doesn't
when you
even-
see a lot of fighting games, you're like, oh, you're from China. What do Chinese people from 50s movies look like?
But here's the thing, that whole game is so weird. You can't even say it's like racist or anything else because it's so weird. Like where the hell did this come from?
It is weird, but the thing is, they have people of color, they have people from different nations, but they don't have to represent them the
Yeah.
way that, and this is not attacking Japan at all, but like, you know, this argument has been done on podcasts and stuff before. Japan is 99% Japanese, and their vision of an American or a black person or a person from Russia
Is Mr. Popo?
is yeah, exactly. It's only stuff from media, so they have very little to go on. So they're like, hey, we want a boxing character, but we want it to be from America. And it looks exactly like Mike Tyson. Like, that's all they're exposed
Or
to.
Mr. Popo?
Or Mr. Popo.
Oh,
He's like,
Tommy.
you know, they're like, hey, we need a character from Russia. He will
Fight
talk
bears.
about. They were gonna call him Vodka, and at his ending of his game, he does like a dance with Gorbachev, and I'm like, guys.
Gorbachev, yes.
And the way they dress, look at Chun-Li. He's like, yeah, we'll put her in a silk, you know, Chinese dress. I'm like, why would anybody fight in that? Not saying that the imagery isn't memorable and smart and pretty, but there's nothing left to actual creativity. You look at Guilty Gear and you see a guy like Soul Bad Guy, brown hair, his blade is
so
blunt.
OP. He's
And his-
so OP.
Depending on the game.
He's
His
so
blade is not only not a blade, it's blunt,
It's
and
blunt.
it looks like a lighter.
Half of his attacks, he's just hitting you with the handle of it. He's not even hitting you with
It's
the sword.
amazing. And like, what about him says, oh yeah, he's totally from America. And he's loosely based on Freddie Mercury, because all of the game's characters are based on people in music.
And he never takes his hand out of his pocket. He'll like whoop your ass with his hand in his pocket.
Yeah, he
all
just
the time.
carries it one-handed. And then you have a character like Johnny, who is a mix between Johnny Cash and Johnny Winter.
And he's also like your favorite paladin, like mixed together too.
Yeah, and he flips coins and stuff. Oh my god, the game
No,
is amazing.
Johnny's the guy with no shirt with like
Yeah,
the
with the hat.
and like when he blocks, he's got his hat up like Michael Jackson and stuff.
It's so
Like
tight.
Smooth Criminal.
And the character we were talking about earlier, and this is what, as a person of color, and I don't want to bring this in too much, but it's so obviously done in so many video games that people don't have black friends. And they just kind of throw in a race and throw in like a job title in there.
Got the trash.
Yeah, go to trash. And then you see Venom, and you're like, oh, he's a brown guy. Like, oh, he's not He doesn't throw basketballs at you.
Well-
He's not a boxer.
Well,
He's not-
that's after you get over the fact that the dude fights with a pool cue and pool balls and has
Yeah, and that
it's crazy.
And that's never. I mean, at
He's
least
a
me.
beast. He's a beast.
At least me at my tender age, the game of billiards has never been associated directly with African American cultures. Like,
Really?
yeah, he's a brown person and he plays billiards, but that's not why he plays billiards. Or Potemkin, who's technically kind of Russian based, he's of dark
That's the
skin
big
too.
giant guy with the armor.
Yeah.
Right?
And there's another character from the newest game. Her name is Ramlethal, and she carries 2 huge swords, and she's brown. And they're like, "Oh, why is she brown?" It's like, it doesn't need to matter.
Yeah.
It's just the way the character was drawn,
Yeah.
and that's awesome. And I think that's refreshing, and I think it's super cool.
But what you were saying earlier about the learning curve of it, I think another reason why, and like I made it a point, like when I was playing it on GameCube, I made it a point to introduce people to it. Like when people came over,
Oh,
I'd be
hell
like,
yeah.
I'd be like, oh, and then like we play video games. Probably the first game I put in would be Guilty Gear.
Yeah.
And I think the reason why people liked it so much is because the movement scheme and stuff in it. When people play Street Fighter and like they sit over there and turtle and all that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
like the movement in that game is much more intuitive. You want to get the hell away from somebody, instead of hitting back twice to block, you're hitting back twice and you're like dashing out of there.
Yeah, you're getting out of there.
Yeah, so I think that appeals to like a mass audience.
I can see that.
So the learning curve is high, but like the moveset like tends to like go towards casuals.
I would actually argue that the reason why casuals are able to go ahead and get into Guilty Gear is just because of how long it takes to get through somebody's life bar. If you don't know what you're doing,
That's a
matches
good
can
point,
last
too.
a while. So
That's a good
therefore, it feels like that you're actually engaging a lot more, especially whenever you're playing 2 casuals.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a good point.
Yeah, in Tekken you get like dropped in 8 seconds. I get that. Dude, there's some Brian. Oh my God, Brian.
Eddie Gordo will just juggle you into oblivion.
No noobs for me, man. I eat Eddie Gordo noobs for breakfast. Just backdash until the combo ends and punish. That brings us to my final outro conversation, and we're going to talk about other games with stories that you think may matter. Because I've been playing fighters for my whole life, and Guilty Gear is the first time I ever cared. We have stuff like Street Fighter.
That's like a lot.
It is a lot. And Street Fighter, you know, they have this whole thing with Shadowloo, and you're trying to take Bison, and okay, sure. And then you have Sin in the new games.
But what about the movie when Bison turns into Blanca? and
Hey,
he's like,
okay, no,
"Arr."
that's Charlie and the Blanca, get it straight.
Okay.
And you even have, and most of these games just have a fighting tournament to collect the greatest fighters. And, you know, we have Tekken. You know, the Mishima family holds this tournament, and it's a fighting tournament. And there's some inner family story, but, you know, I don't think the story goes deep to the point where you care. Same thing in, you know, Dead or Alive is like, oh, these chicks are hot, and Wesley Snipes is in it for some reason.
Jiggle factor. Yeah.
Jiggle factor. Soul Cal was kind of neat. I'll put that on the fence. Soul Cal had a kind of a cool story.
Really, was it about the story itself that was cool, or was it
Yeah.
just that it was a
Yeah.
good
It was an amazing game.
Because when I was heavy into Soul Calibur, which was on the Dreamcast,
Mhm.
I was all about that lore. I loved it. And one of the things I really liked about Soul Calibur 2 was like the story mode, and you could like play through, and like there was like a story within that story.
Totally.
So
And there are games like that. And the only thing I'll put up is I actually really kind of like Samurai Showdowns thing.
oh
But-
my God, Samurai
But
Showdown.
those were all like single, like their individual stories were good. But Haomaru's story had nothing to do with Galford. Like,
Oh
yeah,
my
they were
gosh.
beating this boss, but who cares?
You're taking me back.
But they were great. Same. You can say the same thing about Fatal Fury. Like,
Nakaru.
yeah, Fatal Fury's story was kind of neat, but Joe Higashi was just kind of fighting in this tournament, whereas you had Terry Bogard, who's trying to take over Geese. He's trying to fight Geese, like his
Yeah.
rival.
Geese.
And that had a story. But, it's like with Guilty Gear, it's all encompassing. Everybody's kind of in this. So if you guys, you maniacs at home, please let me know of a fighting game I'm not thinking of. If for some reason Virtual On or
I said
Project Justice.
Play Fighter.
I said Power Stone.
Power
Power
Stone.
3D.
Yeah, you know, Clay Fighter and
Primal Rage.
Primal Rage. If these have stories that you feel need to be talked
Pit
about,
Fighter. Did Pit Fighter have a story?
talk about it at our Facebook. And just so that matters,
Oh,
Facebook is at... Whoa.
Oh,
what?
Chang
What?
went ahead and brought up Mortal Kombat. How do you feel about the story in that?
Mortal Kombat's fine. It's
How do we
whatever.
not talk about that shit?
Because it's just
There was
okay.
3 movies,
Yeah, there was 3 movies.
and the
but they're
first one was really
yeah,
damn
you're
good.
just battling Shen. I get it. But, you know, like, you'll see. Just look at the first paragraph of the Guilty Gear Wikipedia and see how, like, in
Cut
depth
that
the story.
trash.
And okay, that's not that. But okay, everybody, we're gonna exit because it's getting weird in here. We're getting
It's gonna get
long.
super
So
weird.
this is End User Disagreements, and please comment to us on Facebook at
End user disagreements.
and Instagram at.
And user agreements.
Oh, geez, that's a drug end user. End User Disagreements. On Twitter, it is EUD Podcast. This is at Loud and Brown.
And we were worried about not filling up half an hour.
I know. And then to my left, I have.
You have just the tip.
And to just the tips left.
You have your Lord and Commander.
And please,
The save rings
another shout out to
of the
whatever.
kingdom of Vidas Gaming.
Oh, my
of
Lord.
yore.
You just never have.
What happened?
In
We
the olden days.
we give a shout out to that mezcal that they gave to Russell
Up to
because
that.
that's the real MVP tonight.
Just
Jesus,
fucking delicious.
holy cow! And this has been a production of the Soundcasting Network. Thank you.